Hello students, welcome to Journ 150 Media and Society. My name is Dr. Sandra Romo and we are in our first week of the course. This week I will provide you with an overview of course expectations as well as an overview and introduction to some of the course content. Just to briefly introduce myself, like I mentioned, my name is Dr. Romo. I am in my 10th year here at CBU, serving as your professor. I have taught on the traditional main campus daytime program as well as with CBU Online throughout my tenure here. I've included some photos of my family just to give you some personality and some faces behind the voice and the emails you'll be receiving from me. Like I mentioned, I have been at CBU for quite some time. I have been married for almost 12 years to my husband, Mark. We have 2 children. My son, Nicholas, is 10, and my daughter, Emma, is 8. In my spare time, I am a Girl Scout troop leader, as well as a parent volunteer for my son's football team and baseball teams, as a team mom and assistant coach, and I volunteer at their school. So that's just some background on me. In the time here teaching at CBU, I have taught in the public relations, journalism, and new media, as well as the communication programs at the undergraduate and graduate level. This particular course I launched on main campus in the daytime program about 4 years ago, and now we have brought it to the online program, and so I'm very honored and excited to teach this content to you this semester. Some basic contact information for me. This is found in the syllabus. It's also found on the CBU online website. However, I wanted to provide you with it here as well. I am the program director for the Master's and the Bachelor of Arts Communication programs here at CBU Online. Essentially what that means is I facilitate all faculty direction and administrative oversight for both of those programs in addition to teaching in the program. My office is housed in the CBU Tyler Plaza campus across from the Galleria Mall. In Suite 200 is where you can access me through the receptionist. My office extension is listed here as well as my email. I will tell you that email is the quickest way to get in touch with me, as I continually and constantly respond to emails either through my phone or through my computer. However, I will tell you that the university does require that we respond within 24 business hours to emails. Typically, I respond more quickly than that. However, there may be slight delays on the weekend depending on when and if I have something going on, or during holidays and non-business hours. My office hours this semester are from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Monday and Tuesdays. I do recommend that you set an appointment if you want to come chat with me. There are times that I am in meetings or meeting with other students, so that an appointment would expedite your time with me if you came to meet with me by phone or even in person. However, you can stop by anytime between 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Mondays and Tuesdays. I am on campus in the Tyler Plaza campus at that point. So just some general housekeeping rules. For those of you that have not had a class with me before, I'm going to review and highlight some areas of the syllabus. If you have had a class with me, a lot of this information is a lot of this information is review. However, it's good to go over. So any discussion board assignment we have in the class has 2 deadlines. Your actual response to the discussion board post or assignment that is posted to a discussion board is always due on a Friday, and replies are due on Sunday. And I'm always looking for at least 2 replies to students, so do keep that in mind. Anything less than that will be deducted points. And roughly about, generally speaking, half of the grade is on your original reply, your answer to the question, the other half is on your replies to students. Deadlines are always on Sunday with the exception of discussion boards. They have a Friday-Sunday split. But week 8 deadlines do vary, so please make sure you spend some time looking at the syllabus now and writing down the deadlines for week 8, because they will definitely be different than what the other week deadlines are. I do not accept late work. That's just my standard policy, so plan ahead and accordingly for situations that may prevent you from submitting your work on time, especially if you're in a term where there are some holidays or things like that. Ops typically run straight through those holidays. We don't provide breaks for students since we are in an accelerated format, so please plan accordingly for that as well. It's very, very important that you do keep that in mind. I am willing to work with you on the front end. If you know you'll be traveling and you contact me and you let me know, we can set up some alternative deadlines prior to the final deadline, since I don't accept late work. However, I will work with you, but I need open communication for setting deadlines ahead of what it is. And what I mean by that is if you are planning on traveling, for example, in week 5 and you contact me in week 2, we can make an alternative deadline of maybe you turning in week 5 work in week 3 or week 4 instead of week 5, but definitely not after the week has happened. And it is expected for you to review all weekly lectures. That is embedded into the course content and into the minutes times that you must spend in the course, meaning you have to spend a certain amount of time within the course each week. We have to allot and report to our accrediting body that you are spending 1,000 minutes in coursework per week. So your weekly lecture is embedded into that content as well. Here are some things to expect in your Blackboard screens. Now, these are snapshots from another course. However, it will not look different than yours. You'll notice on the screenshot of the home screen, all lectures will be posted in the My Announcements section. Any course-wide information that I need to give to you will be posted in announcements. It will also be sent out via email through the Blackboard system. Typically, if I have something to share or explain to the class, I post it as an announcement in Blackboard, and then I ask for it to be sent to Lancer Mail as well. But everything will be in there. So if you need to figure out where a lecture is or where you need to get in touch with me or anything like that, it is in the My Announcements section. Once you're in a week, for example, the week 1 posted here, it's very important that you follow the agenda. The agenda follows a read, watch, complete mentality, meaning that you are reading certain items, you're watching certain things, and then you're completing certain things within the course. So it's very important that you keep that in mind. If you're not familiar with or you have not yet accessed grades in Blackboard, it's important to know that there's a 3-step process to do that. The first step will be clicking the My Grades link on your Blackboard menu, which is off to the left side. Once you're in the My Grades section, you'll see all grades that you have and all assignments that are upcoming or have already passed. At that point, you can click on the actual assignment. Once it has been graded or submitted, it'll have a hyperlink, so it'll be a different color and you can click it and then it'll open up your attempt. It'll also show you how many times you attempted it. I automatically grade your last attempt. You can submit it multiple times. I'm only going to grade the most recent attempt submitted as long as it's prior to the deadline. To find out your feedback, you'll have to actually click the grade itself. So for example, in box 2, 56.83 is the grade. It's hyperlinked. You click it and then it pulls up box 3. It will show you your submission. It will show you if there is response feedback. That is actually where my instructor feedback will be. You'll click it, or you can click the rubric if it is a course with a rubric in there, and you can view the rubric and feedback from the rubric there. If you have any specific questions on that, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me. So this week we are in week 1. We are reading chapter 1 and chapter 7 of our course text. You'll find that Croteau-Haynes has a very solid text in terms of looking at media and its influence in society and society's influence in media. This week we're looking at media in the social world and media influence in the political world. We're watching 4 videos. 2 of those are directly related to the activities, and the other 2 are related to the reading. So after you've watched those videos, you'll complete media and culture activity number 1 as well as discussion board activity number 1. So the media and culture activities this semester are centered around you looking at some culturally related item or something that has a huge cultural implication in society as well as media. So this week you'll be watching the Bhutan, The Last Place documentary put on by PBS. It's about 10 minutes or so, and it provides you with a comprehensive overview of the country of Bhutan, which was one of the last nations known in the world to bring cable television to them in the 90s. So you'll be looking at some of the immediate influences and the implications television had on children in Bhutan through this documentary. What you'll do is you'll write a 300-word reflection answering the 3 questions listed here. You'll look at how media was influenced the nation of Bhutan, how television influenced it, so there's a difference there, as well as will media influence change the societal structure of Bhutan for future generations, and why you may think that may be the case or not. This is an APA format, so note all assignments are expected to be in APA format. That means cover page, abstract, references, reference page, all that great stuff. So make sure that that is included in there. If you have any questions, let me know. Use the links in Blackboard to access the Bhutan, The Last Place documentary. It's for free on the PBS website, and it's embedded into the course as well. Reflection number 1 asks you to watch a Frontline documentary on South Korea. This one is, you'll see that both of these documentaries are two extremes. The first one, Bhutan, is related to a country that brings in media for the first time. And then we're looking at South Korea, which is known as one of the most wired places on Earth, or this documentary is making the contention that it is the most wired place on Earth. And looking at the different parallels. So one that has a heavy media influence, and one that has virtually none, and we're looking at the implication of those. So in this, reflection number 1 is a 200-word post at minimum. You can definitely go over that if you need to, where you're answering 3 questions related to the documentary. You're providing 1, an overview of the documentary, 2, any evidence of political influence in the documentary according to the course text and what they talk about in there, and then what influence does media have of the lives of the people featured in this documentary. Begin to think about those things. This is where we're kind of building our exposure to media and how media is influential in society. And that's really the main focus of our course. We're looking at media from a new perspective. We all have a general, cursory, basic knowledge of what media is. We all consume it. What we're going to spend time this term is looking at how the types of media we consume, how often we consume it, the nature of it, how it can be influential. And we're going to look at some media theories to support that throughout this term. Specifically, I want to spend some time looking at models of communication this week. I'm going to introduce to you 2 types of communication models. First, the linear or the unidirectional model of communication tells us that communication only goes in one direction. This is the most common form of communication when it comes to media dissemination, meaning sending out information through media channels, media outlets, communication mediums, anything like that. Loosely speaking, television, internet, apps, phone, print, digital, whatever you want to call it. You begin with a source. You have a content creator. That is the source that is working to create the message. That message is encoded to the appropriate medium in which it will be sent. The message is sent, and then it is decoded and received by the receiver. The decoding means the message is received. It means it's read, it's comprehended, and it actually is attained by the receiver. So, for example, this is known as Weaver model of communication. It's an SMR model, a source message receiver model that was later built, that started in the 30s and 40s and later became more sophisticated with communication technologies in the 60s and 70s to be known now as the source encode message decoder model, which is the SEMDR model. But it derives from the original Weaver model of communication. Essentially what it's saying is that a source has information to send out. It has to be encoded at the very beginning stage. Essentially speaking, what we put on Twitter, what we put on Instagram, what we put on television, what we put on a blog, what we put in print are all different mediums. We may have the same thing to say across all those different mediums, but the message has to be created and delivered in a different format. We know this to be true. Twitter's very easy for us. We know we're limited to 140 or maybe 280 characters that we can put a message out there in. Where Instagram, it's a visual-based platform where we're looking more at a photo-based way of looking at whatever it may be. As opposed to a blog, which may be more lengthy. You can have the same thing you want to say across 3 of those platforms, but it will need to be encoded 3 different ways. You then send the message is decoded, and then it is received by the receiver. So that's a linear model, meaning all communication is taking place across this line. It does not deviate from this pattern. It stays within this pattern the entire time. If you were to get into a bidirectional model, which is still linear, it means that the receiver could send a message back to the source across that same line and go back and forth with communication. Essentially, what we're saying is that this type of communication that's used for mass delivery of communication is a linear model where communication takes place across the line. The next type of communication that we're going to look at, which we're going to try to build within in this class and to build our understanding on, is ritualistic communication. This is where communication moves beyond the mere transaction or interaction of a linear perspective, and that communication, it considers that all communication is part of a communicative experience with another person. The goal of communication is building the ritual of communication. Rather than looking at the line and the transaction that we are utilizing communication for in a linear model, instead we are now looking at the ritual, the communing of one another within communication. So I put these photos here to kind of highlight that. Gathering together at a coffee shop isn't necessarily about what we're going to say. It's about the communing, the ritual of gathering together to spend time together. Communication builds us and brings us there. However, it's more about the ritual of how we're communicating at the coffee shop rather than how we're sending the information out in a linear model. Same thing here with friends gathering at the beach. Conversations and communication, really it doesn't matter what exactly that is. We're looking more at the ritual of the communication. What is the value of the communication had there? What moments, what bonding interactions are we having with one another that build and create this ritual of communication? We consider that communication is all a part of this communicative experience, building into each other's lives in many different ways. Not necessarily at what the words that are being said, but rather what experience is coming from the communicative nature of that setting. Are we building a ritual? And that's where we're going to try to get to within this course. You'll see that culture in the context of this course with the text and Courtois and Hoynes is argued that it's semiotic, meaning that there's a system of meaning and signification, and symbols are used as a central to both pattern conduct and the individual frames of mind. Essentially, we're saying that if culture is semiotic, human behavior is a symbolic action in which phonation, speech, pigmentation and painting, line and writing, sonnets and music become subjective and influenced by ritual. So if we know that culture is influenced by ritual, and our goal is to get to ritualistic communication, meaning building a communicative experience that goes beyond what we're saying, we have to understand where culture fits into there. We also know that as we're arguing that culture may be semiotic, we also know that it's constructed, which we're going to get into today in social construction theory. We'll see that ritual action is communal and is often traditionally influenced by communicative interactions and behaviors, and that there's 5 characteristics of a ritual. So in order to build ritualistic communication, we need to understand what a ritual is. A ritual has 5 characteristics. The first one is formalization. So there's something formalized in the way that that ritual takes place. There's a sense of traditionalism. Invariance, meaning it usually takes place the same way each time. There's some sort of rule or governance system, as well as sacral symbolism and what is happening through that communicative experience or within that ritual itself. So those are just some things to keep in mind as we get into the content this week. It's important to know that as we embark in this course, it's a media and society course, yes, but you're going to see that society is formulated and approached primarily through culture, and that there are many different cultures within a society, or there could be, or it could be a monocultural setting, but most of the time it's there's more than one culture. So we're going to look at 4 different ways that we're going to approach studying culture this term. We're going to look at it from a structural approach, where culture is focusing on the beliefs, attitudes, and values held by individuals, seeing that they're seeking out patterns and to the rules of a specific culture. We're going to look at it as a dramaturgical approach, where we're looking at the communicative properties of culture and exploring the interactions within the social structures in which that culture takes place. We're going to take a look at institutional approaches to culture, as well as dialectical approaches to culture. Both of them, institutional adds to the elements of the cultural structures to a dramaturgical perspective, as well as the dialectical approach looks more at the acceptance of human nature, is probably both creative and deterministic in terms of setting cultural norms. So these are some ways that we're going to be looking at culture later on in the term. Most specifically this term, we will be spending a significant amount of time in looking at and seeing how social constructionism, or the social construction of reality, both of those terms are the same and interchangeable, is a specific theory developed by Peter Berger and Thomas Luckman. We're going to spend a significant amount of time in that theory this term. We'll also spend some time in social learning theory, which we'll be exposed to later in the term. However, it's important to start to look at this. So social constructionism, which you'll see is going to play a significant role in the class in terms of looking at how culture is shaped, how communication is shaped, how media influences society, assumes that there is an understanding that significance and meaning are not created within the individual, but within the coordination of other human beings. We know, according to Berger and Luckman, that human beings are rational. Their experiences are by creating a model of the social world and how it works. What exactly is this that they're telling us? What they're telling us is that what we believe is real and shaped by our social interactions and life experiences with others. And in a nutshell, it is telling us that our reality is constructed by our social experiences. So what you perceive to be as reality as you sit in a coffee shop is constructed by the observations you're making in that coffee shop, or by the observations you've made in coffee shops in the past. So you know what the cultural norms are, what the expected societal norms are when you enter that coffee shop. You know what the expected behavior is. This is very, very transparent in terms of you can replicate this across many different situations. Anytime we walk into a doctor's office in the waiting room, it's usually silent, right? Why do we remain silent? Because that reality of what the doctor's office waiting room should look like has been socially constructed for us throughout time. We maybe had a mother at some point, or a father, or a loved one at some point in our life that told us we shouldn't be, this is a room we need to be quiet in as a child. We've been to the doctors enough to be able to construct what that reality should look like. And so we set our own societal and cultural norms of how our behaviors and our communicative experiences should be in those types of settings. So this can be replicated across many different ways in different areas in our life. What Berger and Luckman are just telling us is that we're rational beings, and our experiences, by creating a model of what those expectations are supposed to be, create our social world. We understand language is essential to the system in establishing our reality. We according to Berger and Luckman, we can conclude that society is constructed in 3 different stages: through externalization, objectification, and internalization. Internalization tells us that we learn the supposedly objective facts about cultural products that have been created through socialization, the process of the social interaction in which we learn the ways of society. I explained this to you in the previous slide just a few seconds ago. When we walk into a doctor's office, we know the expectations because we have been exposed to the cultural products through observation in this internalization method. Objectification really tells us that products are created in the first stage, typically take on a reality of their own, being independent of those who created them for us. Whereas externalization says we create cultural products, meaning our values, beliefs, systems, and such, through the social interaction. We typically shape different cultural products within society through interaction with people in society, or just interaction with any type of communication within society. These products tend to be, these cultural products will become external to those who have produced them for us. So we shape our cultural beliefs and societal norms based off of social interactions. We yell really loud inside of a doctor's office. We're shushed if we're told to be quiet. That social interaction now develops a new cultural or communicative product that's external to us. Now we know the norm and the behavior of that office based off of the way the society around us responded. So we're going to get into social constructionism a lot more deeply this term. It's covered in chapter 1 of the text, so it's really important that I highlight it this week. It's okay if it seems lofty and extreme. It's not meant for you to completely have a solid understanding of it yet, because this is something that's going to grow with us throughout the next 8 weeks. This is just an introduction. So to highlight what we are doing, remember reading chapter 1 and 7 of the course text. We're watching 4 videos, one that's looking at communication technologies, one that's looking at social constructionism, and then the other 2 are related to the media culture activity number 1 and discussion board number 1. If you have any questions, let me know. know. If you need to chat, you want to understand more about what the course expectations are, anything like that, definitely get in touch with me. We can set up a time in the first couple weeks to sit down and chat about that. I really look forward to interacting with this class. This is very thought-provoking information and really fun class to take in terms of applying our communication knowledge outside of just what the normal lens of what communication is. So I pray you all have a blessed week, and I'm looking forward to interacting with you later on in the term. God bless and have a great day.